popular musician Babumbuso appeared on the conversation with Penuel, and they were talking about what we should do with Jesus, like with the person of Jesus Christ that we speak about from the Bible. They were just saying, what do they think?
We need to shy away from trying to prove whether Jesus existed or not. We're wasting time on that.
That's quick. It's quick and straightforward.
Trying to prove whether Jesus existed or not. We're wasting time on that. Because it can't be that over 2 billion people in this planet, they accepted this message. I would say, let's say Jesus never existed, but the name Jesus becomes a frequency, an eternal frequency in which everyone can try to find them. A frequency, Jesus never in this planet, they accepted this message. I would say, let's say Jesus never existed, but the name Jesus becomes a frequency, an eternal frequency in which everyone can try to find themselves.
I find that quite interesting, that in wanting Jesus not to exist, he still wants the name to exist, just as a frequency. Out of 2 billion people, what? He was raising a point there.
Billion people in this planet, they accepted this message. I would say, let's say Jesus never existed, but the name Jesus becomes a frequency, an eternal frequency in which everyone can try to find themselves.
So the issue is the message that comes with Jesus. You will spot there. It says, out of 2 billion people, you're expecting 2 billion people to accept this particular message. Now that they have. Remember, there's the 1 billion Catholics and so forth, right? And the other Christian groups. Yeah, they have. Now, because you can't, it's fine. It's really that simple. It's fine. We just don't accept what you have gathered as reality. Frequency, an entire person. And this whole thing of saying, yeah, let's get away from this effortless task of trying to talk about Jesus' existence. That's not a disputed thing. In history, it's well recognized. But the very Africans that want to go back and say, no, we are speaking fact, they speak out of fact. Even non-believers, historians say the existence of Jesus as a person is an undisputable. But why is it that Jesus can only be seen as a frequency? Let's hear his reasoning concerning that.
Others laughed on the previous episode when we spoke about Jesus founding a Buddhism. Why they didn't understand that I was illustrating my ideology. If Jesus would go to the wilderness and the Buddhists would go to the wilderness so that they can empty themselves and meet each and every emotion. So now when they say Jesus went to hell to fight with the devil, no, he went through all the emotions inwardly and conquered himself. This is why.
Yes.
So all I'm saying, we need to know what we are doing.
So how do we get there? How are we going to know what we are doing when things that are factual are not fact? If we are saying, okay, let's know what we are doing, let's dismiss the existence of Jesus. It's effortless, that one. Jesus should be just a frequency, as he's saying now. How are we knowing, truly being truthful in what we are seeking or seeking to find truth, if we handle truth in that manner? You don't like that you don't like the message that Jesus comes with, but disputing what is factual. But anyways, this tells you how difficult believing is.
You make me think of Joshua Maponga. Joshua would also sound similar to Yeshua, which is Jesus.
Yes.
who njengamanje khona bamhlekayo because he goes to rivers, he goes to caves,
Yes.
he walks in the sun almost naked,
Yes.
in this search for internal meaning and conquering internal turmoil. All
Now, how far with Maponga's endeavors of running around naked and all those things that you just described? How far? How far with that? We don't have to manufacture human experience. It is well described. You can pretty much know what you're doing with it. If you deal with it rightfully as it's given within all studies that we have done. I mean, like, there's all manner of studies in this day and age. At an information period like this, I don't expect people to be so ill-informed. You guys will remember when I went to the Christian Network, I mentioned this thing and people laughed when I said it. I said, most people think, just believing. When I said, no, it's actually believing that's the center of our relationship with God. And people said, no, I'm making it too easy. And I'm like, but how hard do you think it is to believe? And people just didn't want to. They didn't want to acknowledge that. Believing is 1.5 miles. There are people that are never going to cross that bridge. And there are people that claim to believe that when challenged, they back off. Because their belief is very faint. There are people who, no matter how much information you give them, no matter what you teach them or say, they just will never cross that bridge. Believing is one of the most challenging things that people actually have to go past. But nowadays in the church, what's happening is that we have come to a place where people are even questioning believing. We question believing because, you're from this type of a church, they dress like this or they do this kind of things. If you don't do this kind of things, you don't believe. Or unless you are like this church, we come to church on Saturdays. Our pastor doesn't wear makeup, she doesn't wear pleated skirts, and like all these revelations that you've seen over the last couple of months. And this is what says a person really believes. But at the end of it is that we just don't realize we're creating divisions in places where there shouldn't even be divisions. The core root of the matter is believing. And that is a lot easier said than done. What you believe about him, you can differ. But his existence, well stated. But why is it that in Africa, this is the subject now? We've passed the subject matter of even talking about Jesus' existence. No, you don't believe. It's okay. Yeah, by it's okay, I mean, we're not going to try and convince you. We can only talk about what we ourselves have found as hope in his existence. To a point where that part where he says, Jesus, just a frequency for everyone to find themselves. What does that mean? What does it mean to say Jesus doesn't exist? It's just a frequency. What? Can we say that about any other figure in history? Hitler didn't exist. He was just a frequency of hate. Can we say that about him? Yes, we know Hitler existed because we have video and all these things. But we have records that record Jesus, not only Christian material, even outside of Christianity, that record his existence. Particularly within that period in which he lived. Believing, it's a completely different thing. But his existence. But why do you think it's the case in Africa that this is now the subject matter? What happened in Africa? What is it that people hate so much about faith that this is the answer to them? No, it just doesn't exist. I don't know. Yeah, tell me down in the comment section. I think that's a very interesting conversation yet to be had. What's going on in Africa that, because we don't believe, it mustn't exist? What's going on that has caused that to be the plan of action, or the route of action? I'll see you down in the comment section. It's Ricky. Have a blessed day. Those questions remain in my head.